Okay, I've got about a minute to go, and traders are still filing into the room, so I'm going to give them an opportunity to come in. I just want to make sure, I'm going to open up the questions. I just want to make sure if everyone can hear me okay, can you just put a yes or a Y in the chat? Okay, great. Okay, thank you all. Hey Ken, how you doing? Okay, we're gonna begin, and what I'm gonna be doing is going over a trading technique, a trading methodology that you are not going to hear anyplace else. And what we do is we evaluate small cap biotech stocks that we believe have a tremendous chance for getting approval of a brand new medication that's been presented to the FDA. I'm going to show you how the process works. I'm going to show you how we vet the medication. I'm going to show you our win percentage. Now, I want to quickly go over this disclaimer that all signals and trading opportunities that we provide for educational demonstration purposes only, and everybody understands that trading does involve substantial risk, and you should never trade more than you can afford to lose. Now, this is our right line trading team. It's growing. I'm bringing on a lot of young new talent, and I'm really proud to be associated with the company, and as it really continues to get bigger. Now, just a little bit about myself. I'm a graduate of an Ivy League university. I went to the University of Pennsylvania for 8 years. I majored in applied mathematics. I graduated summa cum laude with honors. And after graduation, I was inducted into the Phi Beta Kappa Honor Society for graduating in the top 2% of my class. It was always my goal to go into academics. I wanted to do teaching and research. I applied to a number of universities. I went to school in Philadelphia, and I decided to stay in the city. So I took a position at Thomas Jefferson University as a full-time professor, where I published 15 peer-reviewed articles in really top-tier journals. I taught an enormous number of undergraduate and graduate students. I've always considered myself to be a scientist, a teacher, and an academician. Being able to analytically examine something and sort of bring about the best solution to any given problem. I've been an invited guest speaker internationally in many countries, invited speaker in many cities, and I believe in the past 12 years, I've mentored close to 30,000 traders. Now, if you're looking for the holy grail of options, I think this is about as close as you're going to get. And if you look at these, a lot of these crazy headers that I get, Breakthrough Strategy produces 140% gain in one trade, 1,500 to 15,000 in a few weeks. Game-changing option strategy can take your portfolio to new heights. I mean, this is all background noise, and I would implore you to ignore it. There is no options hack. There's no special algorithm. There's no way around the fact that big institutional traders run the market, and there is a small niche in the area that I'm going to show you today. Now, the strategy is based on an enormous amount of background work and mathematical optimization. We're running about an 80% plus win rate. This year, 2023, has been a little more rugged than normal. Historically, we've been close to a 91% win rate. I'm going to show you all the trades we took in 2022 and year-to-date 2023. And I'm going to show you how we achieve these results. Now, this is really a formula that's unknown to 99% of investors that has the potential to deliver enormous success. And the market environment is irrelevant because these are specifically catalyst-driven events. Some major news comes out on a small cap biotech stock with a small float that drives it up an enormous amount in price. Now, the fact is that even if investors know about it, very, very few have the capacity and ability to be able to leverage the information appropriately. And it takes me and I'll talk a little bit more about it, 3 professors at the University of Miami School of Medicine to really bring these trades to you. Now, these are small cap biotechs. They're catalyst-driven stocks. Like today, the NASDAQ can fall 200, the Dow can fall, the S&P can fall 60, the Dow can fall 300. How these stocks move is totally irrelevant to the overall market. They are immune to selling pressure and also immune to buying pressure because they are catalyst-driven companies. Now, we all know that technical analysis has its limitations. It certainly has a role to play when we trade, but these are trades based totally on fundamental analysis. And I just wanted to show a couple of slides. You can see we've got a nice bottom formation here, and the stock and price just goes right through it to move down to create a big loser. And this is on Albemarle. It really doesn't matter what the stock is. It's really just shown to highlight our anticipation of a bounce off support and then a total breakdown of the stock. And this is a breakdown to 193. Albemarle, I think, is all the way down to 120 bucks a share. And then we have markets that just move in total chop. I mean, there's no rising triangle, falling triangle, no clear-cut areas of support and resistance. These are markets that we just can't trade. But the type of trade that I'm going to show to you really stands apart from technical analysis. It stands apart from chop, because when the announcement is made and the FDA approves a major blockbuster medicine for a small biocap stock, it's going to rocket that stock higher. Now, I just wanted to show you that historically, we've been running close to a 91% win rate. We've dropped down a little bit this year. Like I said, I'm going to show you all the trades. Now, I just wanted to show you a couple of examples. Now, this is BioXcel, and the ticker is BTAI. These are all 2023 trades that we took. And this is the announcement. This is just an encapsulation of the information that I included with the trade when I sent it out in the alert newsletter. That BioXcel was developing a thin film formulation called dexmedetomidine for the potential treatment of agitation in patients with mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease. There really was no clear-cut good medicine to treat this problem. This was a topical thin film formulation that was applied via a patch to the skin. Now, the stock had been previously crushed when irregularities were discovered and data filed by one of the principal investigators. We were not in the trade. But when the information came out that all the issues that were that involved that principal investigator were in patients that received placebo and not medicine, we knew that we were looking at a potential really big winner. Now, as I said, all serious events in which the FDA was not notified on a timely basis occurred in patients who were receiving placebo, not active drug. So the irregularities in the data reporting became irrelevant, and the FDA hunkered down to make a decision on the effectiveness of the medication. Well, it approved it, and you can see that the stock jumped 102% on the news, went from $5.88 a share to $11.36 a share, and the option rose 331%. BioXcel has a very small float, and all the momentum investors got involved to push it even higher. We hit our target, and we were out at over 300% on the option. The overall market environment is absolutely irrelevant to the trajectory of this stock once the FDA gives the thumbs up, and that FDA date is announced beforehand. It's called a PDUFA date, and I'll show you what that means. It's a PDUFA date, and we know the day that the FDA is going to give the medication a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Now, this is Verrica Pharmaceuticals, and they developed the first medication ever to treat an infection caused by a virus. It's known as molluscum contagiosum. It's a viral skin infection, and it causes round, firm, painless bumps, as well as just common warts. But the big problem is it causes anogenital warts. Now, some believe it's a sexually transmitted issue, but either way, if you acquire the infection and subsequently get the anogenital warts, there was no cure. And the problem was not only the local discomfort and erosion that occurs in the area, but this was a predisposition. This was a precancerous condition. It predisposed you to developing a carcinoma in the anogenital area. Now, this was the first medicine to ever show incredible efficacy in the treatment of this illness. And as I write here, currently no therapy exists. Well, it was approved, and I don't have the price here was about $5.70. The stock went to $7.34, and the option made 109%. So we bagged a triple-digit winner on this medicine. This was one I was very, very sure was going to get approved. Now, we look at all the phase 2 data that's presented to the FDA. It's all published and available via Nexus Lexis search or a PubMed search. And that's what we really do, is we sit down and review all the phase 2 data on all of these medicines. Now, here's Emergent Biosciences, and then there are a couple of trades that we're going to get every year that I call gimme trades. Now, they made an application to the FDA for the over-the-counter approval of Narcan. Now, you know, in this day and age where there's 100,000 people a year dying of fentanyl overdose, that you do not want to have Narcan only available via prescription or just carried by paramedics. You want people on the scene to have it. And right now, I think in San Francisco and Los Angeles, you can get it for free just by, they have Narcan dispensers on the street. So you can just pull a lever and it will eject, I think, 3 or 4 amps of Narcan. Now, this was a gimme trade. Now, the reason Emergent Biosciences didn't go up even higher is that there are competitors to Narcan, but Narcan is the gold standard medication, and to make it over the counter and readily available to everybody is really sort of a gimme. And we made 173% on the option. Stock went from 870 up to 1357 on the news. And you can see that because the momentum investors get involved, somewhere in the middle, that we're long in the trade, the stock usually tails off. So we're going to hit our profit target, and then we're going to get out and bag our 173%, bank it, and walk away from the stock. Now, this is Coherus. Now, they presented, it's called a Yudenkaya auto injector. And this is a really novel breakthrough in medicine. And what it does is it contains a medication, and it's a novel medication as well as the Yudenkaya auto injector. And what it does is it measures your white blood cells continuously in your blood. And if you're receiving chemotherapy, and the chemotherapy is knocking your white blood cell count down, it's going to predispose you to getting infections. White blood cells have two arms to them. There's a cellular arm and there's a humoral arm. The humoral arm fights viruses, and the cellular arm fights bacteria, parasitic infections, the whole host of other infections. So you do not want your absolute neutrophil count to fall below 500. And when it does, this auto injector is going to squirt some of the medication into your blood, which is going to push your bone marrow to make more white blood cells. It got approved. The medicine went from $6.30. I can't really see the high up there. Now, I was surprised we only made 104% on the option, but that's all we made. And we'll take a triple-digit winner every time. Now, this wasn't a gimme, but I think we had a 97 or 98% chance of approval on the medicine. Now, we give a chance of approval or chance of success. It's called a COS number on every trade we send out, and we're only going to send it out if it has a 96% COS probability or higher. And then I just wanted to show you Lantheus. Now, this is one where we could not trade the option, and every now and then we have to trade the stock. And the reason we couldn't trade the option was it was just like an inert options chain. There was nobody trading it. There was no open interest. There was no volume on it. So we had to take the stock. Now, Lantheus makes a cardiac and cardiovascular imaging platform, which has already been approved in the United States. And what it does is it actually shows you the lumen or the opening of all of your coronary arteries. So it makes that old style, I can't remember what it's called, where you inject dye through the carotid artery, and actually you have to do angiography to look at the patency or the openings of your coronary arteries obsolete. It also makes a lot of stress tests obsolete because it calculates an ejection fraction, or the amount of blood that is ejected each time the heart pumps. Of the total volume of blood present in the heart, it should eject 70% or more of that volume each time it beats. If it doesn't, it means that you have damage or poorly functioning myocardium of the heart. So this is a revolutionary platform. Now, what we're waiting for is approval on this platform by the European Commission. Now, they are slow as molasses, I have to tell you. And we've been holding Lantheus for quite some time. And this is not a buy and hold service. We want to be in and out. But I decided that we bought it at 70, we sold one half at 100. And we made 42% on the stock, but we never got that European approval. The stock just went up on its own. So I took half off at 100. We're holding the other half, waiting for that European equivalent of the FDA to get off its butt and approve this platform. And when it is, the stock, I believe, is going to go to 120. Right now, it's just languishing. It's sitting around 75. It's trailed back off. We're still up on the remaining half. And we're going to wait for that EU approval. And the EU just, is not quite as efficient as the FDA. So the last one is SC Pharmaceuticals, SCPH, and I may come back around on this because SCPH has got a new medicine that they're teeing up. But what they created, and this was also sort of a gimme. I didn't want to label it as a gimme, but if you know about furosemide, it's called Lasix. It's the most powerful diuretic that there is. Now, I know a lot of people who have high blood pressure may get a diuretic. And a diuretic pushes your kidneys to make urine, wants you to prevent you from going into volume overload. And by keeping the total body volume lower, your blood pressure is going to decrease. So there's a lot of medicines that like hydrochlorothiazide is still a popular medication. It is less routinely prescribed now because I think that ACE inhibitors and beta blockers are more common. But anyway, Lasix is the most powerful. And it's only given in the hospital, and it's only available intravenously. You cannot give it orally. So patients who are in abject cardiac failure, and what they have is really an end-stage cardiomyopathy, where their heart does not eject a sufficient amount of blood with each contraction to perfuse the body, and these people have very poor circulation. They may have problems in their toes with circulation. They may be cold, they may be cyanotic. Some of them have auto amputation, but these patients have end-stage cardiac disease. Now, the quality of their life is poor, and they spend a huge amount of time in the ICU. But the Lasix auto-injector senses total body volume. And every time your body volume gets to a critical level, the auto-injector squirts some Lasix into your blood, and it causes you to create more urine, push out more of your total body volume. Now, this phase 2 study showed that a really large cohort of patients had a longer life and a much better quality of life. They spent a lot more time out of the hospital, at home, comfortable, because their total body volume was kept low by the auto-injector. And I felt that this was a gimme. You can never, I mean, when a medicine is not already out, like the, I didn't project, but we had the ability to get into the company that makes Botox. That was a monster winner. And the one that made Narcan, BioXcel. But this was a 99% chance of success. It succeeded. Look at the, now this is going into the FDA date, and here's the approval. Look at the stock. It went from $9 and about 40 cents to $11.58, like a rocket ship in one day. We made 184% on the option, and we were gone. Now, SC Pharma has since, again, tailed way off. They're teeing up another medication that I'm looking at, along with my colleagues, and we may tee that up and set that up for another trade. Now, I just wanted to go through the drug approval process with you, because I'm going to be using this kind of nomenclature in the newsletter, and I want you to have it. You're going to get a copy of this webinar. But I just want to give you sort of a little bit of an understanding of what happens. And I just want you to know that of every 100 molecules or novel substances that are developed, only 1 out of 100 ever come to the pharmacy. Everybody, I know everyone complains about the price of medication, especially these new medicines. Some of them are priced at $1,000 a dose, but the amount of money that's required, not just to bring this one to fruition, but also to vet all the molecules that never make it, is just enormous. The cash burn rate of these small biotech companies is enormously high, and they have to have big cash backers. So in order for them to become startups, they have to have a very, very smart clinical team. So you go from a drug discovery to preclinical development. At that point, you can do anything you want with the medication, or at that point, it's just, just a chemical compound. Now, unfortunately, you want to do humane studies, but you can do anything you want on rats and mice. Unfortunately, in some cases, dogs are used. I've seen videos on that. It's sort of heart-rendering, but they are. And in other cases, they even use primates. I mean, they will use apes to do some studies. So you can do very expensive preclinical studies, already accruing a significant amount of cost. Then you apply, if the data looks good for you, you take all the data and you send it to the FDA to get an IND. And an IND is, if it's approved, means that now your drug comes under the auspices of the FDA, and whatever you do from that day forward has to get approval from them. You just can't go willy-nilly and decide to do a study. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to do a phase 1 trial. And a phase 1 trial is not looking at the effectiveness of the medicine. It's looking at the safety and the dosing interval of the study. Now, this is usually done on people who are volunteers. And I'll tell you, if you know how to plug yourself in, you don't have enough money. I mean, a lot of people can make a living off of this. The problem is you have to be a healthy person. I mean, you can't be a homeless person living in tent city, snorting fentanyl or crack. So if you're healthy and you want to do it, they're going to pay you a couple of $1,000s to become a participant in an early clinical phase 1 trial. Now, if the data is good, the FDA will allow you, and most medicines pass that phase 1 trial. They're safe, and the dosing interval, or the best dosing interval, is determined. Then the phase 2 trial is where you look at effectiveness. And this is where we start to look at the medicine ourselves, because we have to look at all of the phase 2 data that's acquired. Because the phase 2 data information is really good, then the company can apply to the FDA for an approval and allow the medicine to be used for clinical use. This is our catalyst event right here. Now, since we're going to be looking primarily at what we call fast track drugs that have orphan drug status, no clinical phase 3 or phase 4 trial can be done. Now, if the medicine has a competitor medicine, then in a phase 3 trial, they will go head to head. But we don't care about a phase 3 trial. The phase 2 trial is the catalyst event. If it happens to be statistically significantly more effective than the other medicine that's on the market, it's not going to push the stock up significantly higher. And then there's even a phase 4 trial that I didn't even bother to put on there, where you actually not only go head to head with another medicine, but you add a placebo control to it. You can get as complex as you want, but if the medicine has no competitor, which means it has orphan drug status, there's nothing to compete with. So the phase 2 trial is the end of the process. and the medicine hopefully is approved by the FDA, and doctors can write for it and use it either at home or in the hospital. Now, I'm just going to go over really quickly one medicine to show you the process. Now, H. pylori is an anaerobic bacteria. It's a gram-negative organism, and it thrives in environments where there's very little oxygen. And it causes gastric ulcers. Most ulcers of the stomach, 80%, and 20% of the ulcers on the duodenum are actually induced by this organism. And the thing is, it's seen with a lot of prevalence in lower socioeconomic groups, which provides a lot of data that it's spread horizontally, and that it goes from indigent person to indigent person, although nobody knows its vector. So if you wind up, now a gastric ulcer is a predisposition to gastric cancer. So it's something that needs to be taken care of. And one of the problems is it just doesn't come to light until it becomes clinically evident. And that is normally when the ulcer is really deep. It causes pain, and in some cases it causes bleeding and you vomit blood. So you want to get in there very early. And I think there's now a breath test that allows you to detect the presence of Helicobacter pylori. Now, at the present time, the gold standard of treatment is amoxicillin. And amoxicillin does cure the organism, but within 90 days, almost all patients have a recurrence. So it's a temporary, worthless trial that ultimately leads to a relapse. So what a company is going to do is they're going to take the organism, they're going to grow it in a petri dish, and then what they're going to do is they're going to throw in discs impregnated with all kinds of different antibiotics and antibiotic combinations. They're going to look at the zone of clearing around the disc, and the antibiotic that has the largest zone of clearing is going to be one that's going to be considered to be the most effective. And that's the one that they're going to start their early clinical trials on. Now, this is an illness that cannot be replicated in rats, mice, dogs. It can only be seen in humans. So they have to go right to phase 1 studies. So they're going to apply to the FDA for an IND based on their laboratory studies, because there can be no clinical studies. And the FDA is going to be very predisposed to providing them with the go-ahead, because right now this is an illness that causes some significant morbidity and mortality in lower socioeconomic groups, and currently has no effective therapy. So it's going to go to phase 1 trials, and the phase 1 trials, done again, as I mentioned, does not look at efficacy. It simply looks at dosing interval and safety. Now, the company applied for fast track status. Now, when we see that a medicine has fast track status, our antenna go up, because that means the FDA has taken the company's medicine under its wing and walks it past the phase 1 and phase 2 trials and makes sure there's no methodological flaw in this study. So they sort of baby it along because they want this medicine to get approved. So the medicine got fast track status because there's no effective therapy, and it also had orphan drug status. So that perked us up really, really big time. Now, so the phase 1 trials are what I had mentioned, to look at the dosing interval and safety. These are not expensive normally, but then you go to phase 2, and this is where you look at efficacy and side effects. This requires, several hundreds of patients, because you have to show statistical relevance in the results. It can't be just, the FDA has to be sure it's not due to some random chance finding. And you actually dose these patients with in this particular case, it was amoxicillin combined with an additional medication. Now, Augmentin is amoxicillin clavulanic acid, but this was amoxicillin combined with a second beta-lactamase inhibitor, more effective than clavulanic acid. And in order to determine the success of the phase 2 trials, it was very expensive. You have to get a biopsy of the ulcer pre-study, a biopsy of the study 90 days out, and then a biopsy of the ulcer, if it's healed, 180 days out, to make sure that the organism has not recurred and the area is completely healed. So this is an expensive study because it's an invasive study. And remember, this ulcer can be all the way in the duodenum. Now, you can get there by upper endoscopy, but it's not easy. And it requires someone going to have an inpatient stay, not overnight, and get a biopsy of their stomach and or duodenum. Now, those are the phase 2 trials. It's to determine the efficacy and side effects. We call these top-line results, and this is the major catalyst event in the medicine's development. There are going to be several hundred people involved, and studies can last between several months and 2 years. Now, only 33% of drugs that are approved at the phase 1 level get approved through phase 2. Now, not all phase 2s mean it's going to be prescribed, but the medicines that we look at are going to be prescribed because we're looking at fast-track drugs with orphan drug status. So they get a phase 2 approval, they go into the pharmacy. So just briefly, the phase 3s, which we're really not going to pay much attention to, they involve hundreds to thousands of people. And what they do is they look at head-to-head studies in which one medicine is pitted against another. Now, we came up against this problem in 2021. I'm not going to really go into it, but it was a medicine just really briefly, a medicine for the treatment of uncomplicated urinary tract infections in women. And it was a medication that just beat the pants off of ciprofloxacin. It still didn't get approved, and they're still accruing patients. And we I can't remember if we actually took the trade or we sidestepped it. It's too far back, and I only have the data from 2022, but it's Interim Pharmaceuticals. Those studies are just too difficult in order to determine their outcome when they're put it against a half a dozen antibiotics that are already effective. Trimethoprim, sulforbactrim, Cipro, these all are really good. This had to show was better than all of them, and it did, but it still didn't get approved. So the phase 3 trial, as I said, rarely has top-line data and rarely has a major impact on the company. And then our phase 4 is our double-blinded placebo-controlled studies. These are hundreds of thousands of patients. And this is sort of like, if you've ever heard of the Framingham study, where they compared anti-cholesterol medicines and antihypertensive medicines. This study lasted about 20 years to determine which anti-cholesterol medication, which antihypertensive combinations ultimately led to better outcomes in terms of longevity, quality of life. We're looking at a phase 4 trial that can last a long period of time, and we don't care about them. So I don't really want to spend any time really going into them. Now, we're going to look for medicines that have fast-track designation. Now, the company will apply to the FDA for a fast-track IND. The FDA responds within 60 days. Denials can be appealed, but they're rarely approved if you're denied. When you get approved for fast-track status, the drug is usually for a debilitating or life-threatening condition or to fill an unmet medical need. So it's going to be in a very unique niche. And these are the medicines that we're going to target and we're going to look for. We want fast track medicines. We want medicines with orphan drug status. Now, as I said, the FDA designates the fast track status. The FDA keeps meeting with the company. It discusses drug development, expedited correspondence. There's an automatic application for accelerated approval and priority review. I mean, when you get fast track status, you have a tremendous increase in probability of getting FDA approval. So this is what we look for: fast track medicines with orphan drug status that have a 95% or greater, we call it a COS, or chance of success. Now, the PDUFA decision, or the PDUFA decision, is the date the FDA announces, and it usually does it a month in advance, where it's going to give the thumbs up or thumbs down on the medication. Now, we know about it a month in advance, and what we have to do is the first couple of days of every month, the FDA rolls out a list of PDUFA dates, and it's going to give you all the medicines that it's going to give the thumbs up or thumbs down on. And you can eliminate really 90% of them right off the bat, because they are complex medicines that have multiple competitors in a big market, and we're looking for fast track medicines with orphan drug status. Now, I can never remember what PDUFA stands for, and you don't have to either. It's an acronym for the Prescription Drug User Free Act of 1992, and who really cares? All we care about is that the PDUFA date is sort of when Caesar stands up there on his throne and gives the thumbs up or the thumbs down. And that is where everything takes place. Now, every now and then there'll be a PDUFA postponement, and that may hurt our position if we have an option. But the FDA is usually on target with their PDUFA dates, and we have a PDUFA date on Friday. I'm scheduled to come out on a medicine that I'm going to show you that I believe is going to get, we're already up close to 50% on the medicine, just on other institutional investors becoming aware of it. We were in way ahead of them. And we have a really great PDUFA date on Friday. Now, a CRL is a letter that we never want to see. The CRL is the FDA's description of all the reasons why the medicine got the thumbs down. Now, the CRL does not necessarily mean the death of the medicine. It could say that there were a couple of medicines that we took after the CRL came out because they could not inspect the manufacturing plants in China due to COVID. So they came out with a CRL, and they said that they had to hold up their approval of the medicine pending inspection of the. You'd be amazed at the number of medicines that are made in China. It really, I mean, I find it's sort of disgraceful. I mean, Botox is made in China. All of these novel medicines are for the most part manufactured in China. So if they don't have access, as they did during COVID, a lot of CRL letters went out. It was only a temporary setback. There was no negative comments about the efficacy of the medicine or anything regarding the actual compound. Those are not bad. But in general, these are the death sentence of the medication. And I'm just going to show you a few of our older winners. This is Novavax. They developed the first respiratory syncytial virus vaccine, received fast track designation. Here is our entry. We made 364% on the option. And to me, this was a gimme. I mean, the phase 2 data was absolutely outstanding. And that medicine is still in use. RSV is really an infection in a younger age group, usually under age 18, most commonly in the preteen years, and it can be very severe. I mean, it puts a lot of kids in the hospital. If you're healthy, it almost never leads to death. But if you have diabetes, if you have kidney problems, if you have liver problems, it can. This was a big deal. Here's Regeneron, and they developed the first medication called Eylea. And they advertise it on TV every now and then for macular degeneration. This is senile macular degeneration. It occurs in a lot of people, just as a normal process of aging. The macula is responsible for our 20/20 vision. And Eylea was a major breakthrough therapy designation. I put that in instead of fast track designation. We made 157% on the option. Now here's Clovis Oncology. We only made 302%. This is Rubraca. Now there were other medications that were also on the market that were also available for ovarian cancer, but Rubraca was a huge step forward in the treatment of ovarian cancer. It treated ovarian metastasis better than any other medication. It had less side effects. I mean, the medicines that were on the market were very cytotoxic. They caused a lot of side effects, a lot of neutropenia. Patients had to be hospitalized. These were the patients you saw had no hair. Rubraca sort of altered that as it's an immunological medicine, not a cytotoxic medicine. This is United Therapeutics. We only made 57%. But this was fast-tracked for Unituxin, the first medication for the treatment of pediatric brain cancer, which is glioblastoma multiforme. It almost always occurs in kids, but it happens to be the kind of cancer that killed John McCain very, very, very tragically. He received Unituxin, but it is not a cure. It is a palliative therapy. It works a lot better in kids than it does in adults. And if you're one of the rare people that contract a glioblastoma in older age, it's usually rapidly progressive. And as unfortunately with John McCain, it led to his sad demise. No matter who you are, you got to grieve for somebody who dies like that. And when I heard that John McCain had a glioblastoma, I knew that that was big trouble. Now, I'm just going to show you a couple more. This is Amylyx. Now, this is how you're going to get this is how it's going to come out in the newsletter. I want to explain to you why we're taking it. I just don't want to throw you a trade, give you an options strike and a limit order entry. I want you to understand what we're doing. Now, Amylyx developed the first medication ever to treat amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a progressive neurodegenerative disease, and it really affects the muscles. And ultimately, what you die from is respiratory failure, because the muscles that move the diaphragm, which is that muscle that moves up and down that causes you to inhale and exhale, fails. So all these patients wind up on a ventilator in the ICU and ultimately succumb to the illness. This was the first medication that really had significant efficacy against this. And what it did was it blocked mitochondrial stress. And I don't want to get down to the biochemistry of the compound here, but mitochondrial stress is the problem with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. And the mitochondria are what create ATP, that critical compound that we use to break down to create energy for the body. And with its approval, boom, up it went, 147% on the option. And this is Amicus Therapeutics, ticker's FOLD. This is a real complex medication, but to really cut it short, because you're really not here to get a biochemistry lecture. What we're here to do is become successful traders. But there are a lot of people born with it's an inherited genetic disorder in which you're not able to store glycogen. And when you take in any food, it's ultimately broken down to glucose. And even if it floats around in the body for a while as chylomicrons, which are then metabolized by the liver, ultimately all the energy that we have in the body is eventually converted into glucose. Now, it can be stored as fat, which obviously we don't want it to do, but it can be also stored as glycogen. And in this particular case, because of the enzyme deficiency, the glycogen accumulates in these packages called lysosomes within the muscle. Now, I can show you pictures of kids who have Pompe's disease. They look really awful, and I would never project them. You can Google it if you want. They are wasted. Some of them are deformed. It's a horrific disease. And most of these kids succumb to the illness about age 15 or 16. They just can't go on. And this company developed a medication that actually replaced that enzyme, that genetic deficiency with an ATGAA, and that is a codon that goes into the DNA of our bodies and actually is inserted, just like certain viruses are, to allow us to start manufacturing the enzyme that allows us to break down glycogen stored in lysosomes. It extended the lifetime significantly of these patients, and the quality of their life was greater. This had fast track status and it had orphan drug status. It got approved. I didn't put in the percentage, but you can see how it traded. Boom, up it went from $7 and whatever all the way up to $9.36. Now, this is our 2022 performance. We had 20 trades and we had 2 losers on Kala Therapeutics and Fennec Pharmaceuticals. So we're 18-2 in 2022. Now, here's our 2023 performance. We have many more trades. We have 29 trades. We have 26 winners and 3 losers. Now, every time that I had to buy the stock, I have put that in. All these others are options profits. And we have bagged just many triple-digit winners, and we only have 3 losers. So we're trading really nicely in 2023. Now we have some open positions, and we have a big one coming up. I'm going to show you what that is. It's Bausch Healthcare. Now I've traded Bausch before, and so have all my subscribers, and we traded it really successfully. Now everyone probably knows Bausch & Lomb for their contact lenses, but Bausch Healthcare really makes an array of compounds for the eye. And what they're doing is they're going to hand down an approval decision is coming on Friday, which is a topical gel combination of Retin-A, an antibacterial, and an antibiotic. So it consists of a combination of benzoyl peroxide, clindamycin, and adapalene for the treatment of cystic acne. This medicine in phase 2 clinical trials just was outstanding. Now we know that Retin-A has been a standalone medication used topically forever. Benzoyl peroxide you can get over the counter at a 10% concentration forever. Clindamycin has been taken orally. I don't know of its topical use, but I know it's been available orally for about 30 to 35 years. It's an old medicine. To make it in this combination is very novel and very clever. And I believe that it's got a 99% chance of success. Now, Bausch & Lomb or Bausch Healthcare traded up strong this week. I'll take a look and see where it closed today. And we know that today was a headache. Bosch was down 1 cent today. It's trading at $7.76. We have an $8 call on it. Now we got in at 11 cents. I'm sorry, 13 cents a call. It's trading today at 22 cents a call. So we're up almost 70 to 75% on the position already. And we have not even gotten our PDUFA date announcement. That will come on Friday. So this thing should really, I think this could give us 150, 200% easy if we're up 75% before we even hit our strike price, because we got in at a really advantageous price. I set a limit order of 13 cents and eventually it got in and hit it for us. It's right there. I didn't even see I squeezed it in there, but the limit was 13 cents, good till canceled. You're always going to get a limit. We're all getting in, including myself, at the same price, and we're all managing the trade at exactly the same price. So I don't think any other trade has the predictive power that this type of trade has. When we get an approval and we know fairly certainly, now there are always things that can come up, and and I can tell you of snafus that have hit, that have cost us, but they are usually company caused, and they're caused by a failure of accurate data, by data analysis, data accrual, so the FDA does find flaws in the methodology of the studies, and we can get a denial, though nothing is in the bag. And we had one this week on Aldera, which is unfortunate. We're going to hold, but we traded the stock and we're going to hold it for a while to see if we can get it back. So I don't want you to think that this is a bulletproof formula, but you saw our performance. We're 26 for 29 in 2023. We're 18 for 20 in 2022. I know traders are going to ask me, how many trades do you get? That all depends on the FDA. Now, I work arm in arm with 3 professors of medicine at the University of Miami School of Medicine. I am not qualified to do this work on my own. They need me and I need them dearly. And what we do is we sit down and we go over the phase 2 trials of the fast track orphan drug status medications. We look at all the things that appear to have real nice potential for becoming catalyst events. And if we can come up with an assessment that provides us, and it's really a subjective assessment in terms of a chance of success, we're going to trade it. They're going to trade it. I'm going to trade it. You're going to trade it if you're a member of the service. We're all going to get in at the same price, and we're going to walk away at the same price. So we're all in and out together. And without their help, I could not do this. And without my help, they wouldn't know how to configure a trade. So they wouldn't know whether to take an option, whether to take a stock. And these are all tenured, really, really brilliant professors in different fields, in neurology, oncology, and cardiology. And oncology is a huge field because of the immunology involved. The immunology falls over into autoimmune diseases like lupus. I've got, about 5 million IQ points on the team. I'm working on this service. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in. Now I have lots and lots of nice emails and comments. I got my trades each week. I'm amazed at how accurate. After a 45% increase in my account in the first 2 months, I'm a member for life. I know Mark's Biotech's alert service a try. His first 3 trades were all over 100% gains. Thank you, Mark. And I'm so thankful. In 2 short months, I've grown my account 205%. I told all my friends and relatives it's well worth the cost. Samantha G came in annual. I do get lots of questions. I answer them all, and do not worry. Now, so here's the offer. Now, for the first 20 who come aboard, you're going to get 3 bonuses. You're going to get a PDF I wrote on a tiny company behind a $4 trillion medical revolution, and I'm telling you it's happening. And I'm going to give you a little hint about it. And bonus number 2 is Apple's chip maker that's poised to dominate healthcare, and it really will. And we are going to do bi-weekly small biotech update sessions where you're going to get the opportunity to ask me any questions. A lot of traders actually bring some medicines to my attention, and every now and then they bring up a real nice one. And I can't remember one that I've traded, but I know I have in the past. They find them, I don't know how, they slip through our net, and they wind up being really, really good trades. So I read all my mail, I answer them, and I answer all your questions if you have any. So here's the offer. Now it's normally $9.95 per year. It's normally, I'm sorry, $14.95. If you put in save 500 at checkout, it drops to $9.95. The quarterly is normal $3.95. If you put in save $100, it'll drop to $2.95. So it's $2.95 per quarter with the code save 100. It's $9.95 per year with the code save 500. And the first 20 will get these 3 PDFs as a bonus. And I'm telling you, what Apple is trying to do is create a telemedicine network that not only monitors your blood pressure, your heart rate, your EKG, but also monitors your blood sugar, your serum electrolytes, your liver enzymes. Can basically, by putting your finger on a button, do a CBC and an SMA 18 without taking any blood. And they're getting close. And the companies that are making these chips are working really hard to do it. They have not come to fruition yet, but they are committed to this. And when it happens, we're going to see telemedicine skyrocket. And these small companies are really going to make an enormous amount of money because they've got patents on this technology. So put your finger on a button and we know everything about what's going on in your body. Your blood pressure, your pulse, and about 5 tubes of blood that your primary care doctor takes when he puts that needle in your arm and pushes that red top tube in there and blood fills it up. And it all will be done via that sensor. So let me see if there are any questions. Hey, Kurt. Listen, most of the trades we take, Kurt, are not going to be stocks. I would say about 85 to 90% of the trades are options. As long as we've got reasonable open interest and reasonable volume on the stock, we will trade the stock. This is not a buy and hold service. If you opt for the stock, and you always can, obviously it's a little safer because let's say the FDA decides that like they couldn't, what happened to the medicines, the Botox medicine from BioXcel? Well, they got a CRL letter because they couldn't get into China and they couldn't examine the manufacturing plant. Now we weren't holding it then, luckily. So if we did, our option would have blown up. If you would have held the stock, it would have taken a little bit of a dive and you would have wound up with a 20 or 30% winner. We wound up with about a 200% winner, but it's really up to you. Do I need to have a working account with a broker? Of course you do, Ken. You have to, remember, we're buying and selling stocks, of course. If you don't have one, I would recommend that you open one up with TD Ameritrade. I've been using it. I opened up my account in 1997 when it was TD Waterhouse. It then rolled to to TD something, and then Schwab bought it. Now it's TD Ameritrade. I mean, its platform is absolutely fabulous. It's real easy to buy and sell options and stocks. Their commissions are the lowest. They have 24/7 customer service. It's a really, I think it's a stellar platform. What about the need to have 25K in my account? Well, if you want to trade stocks, Ken, you're probably going to need $10,000 to $15,000 if you want to take an appreciable position. But we do not take stock trades on most accounts, on most of our trades. We opt for the option. Now, we do not trade spreads in this service. We only trade calls. We only trade calls. We don't look to short the stock. We look for a catalyst event to rocket higher. So if you don't really have much options experience, you will get approval right off the bat to trade calls and puts, as long as you indicate you don't want to do it on margin, that you're going to trade calls and puts off your cash account. You'll get approved. Because, I mean, listen, if you buy $1,500 worth of calls and you make 250% on that, that's an enormous return on investment. You want to buy $2,000 worth of calls, you can make $5,000. That's really up to you. But I'm going to give you the option to do either one. I'm going to send you a limit order on the stock, and I'm going to send you a limit order in the whole strike. As you saw on this one slide that I put up here, you're going to get the whole configuration for the entry right here. We bought the note October 27th, and those are weeklies, 2023, $8 call. We paid 13 cents. It's trading today on my TD Ameritrade app at 22 cents. So we're really close to 100% on that stock. If it just goes up a few more cents, and then Friday we get a catalyst hit, it's going to skyrocket. So it's totally up to you. So thank you, William, for coming aboard. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, John. Alvin, thank you. I really appreciate. So that's it. At the very least, I hope that you learned something about a very, very unique trading niche. I work really hard on this niche. I just sent out an alert today. I send out a lot. The flagship newsletter comes out on Sunday nights, and then I send out multiple intra-week updates. If I get any news, it goes out. I sent out a big update today. It's too late to get into that Bosch trade, but I'm telling you, we get new trades all the time. Oh, I really appreciate it. No problem. Thank you all. So listen, everyone, have a really wonderful evening. I really, really appreciate your time. Hopefully, I look forward to working with you, and I hopefully giving you some very, very successful trades. Take care, everyone, and again, have a really wonderful evening. Take care.